We have several items on our agenda this afternoon, and the first of which is RS 2012-504, sponsors Gilmore Matthews, and this resolution approves an annual state grant of $139,900 to the Nashville Public Library to target library materials to persons that have difficulty using the library and to the disadvantaged. It's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Resolution passes. RS 2012-505, sponsors Matthews, accepts a donation of $3,500 from the Nashville Downtown Partnership to the Metro Planning Department to assist in costs of a tax impact analysis for Nashville. It's been properly moved, seconded, and Council Lady Allen.
I just wanted to ask, what is a tax impact analysis and what do we do with it?
Mr. Cooper, is there anyone for planning available? I don't see anyone from planning.
Try to salvage this without knowing a lot about it. I believe this is something in conjunction with the general plan update that Mr. Bernhardt's doing, and that they're getting some assistance just to do some prognostication on tax revenues and things of that nature, is my understanding what this entails.
Okay.
Councilman Tiger.
All right, Rich. So they're looking at the rates, or they're looking at how much is generated from parcels, and what services are required to generate that?
I think it's designed to look at, when you look at a plan, if changes in plans and uses, what does that do to tax consequences? What could be generated in the future? Why infill development is important for the city's economic growth? All those kind of issues, not per individual parcel, but really more in the area of the plan.
And is there a specific area, or what the boundaries are?
Well, this is the general plan update for the entire city.
So entire city. All right, Mr. Chair, my question is, was Planning Commission notified about this being on the agenda?
I would have to check with the clerk's office to make sure that they receive the notification that every other department gets. If you could.
Well, we made some pretty strong statements the last couple of meetings about needing these departments being here. So my motion, unless there is an absolute need that this has to be done, it's a donation from a local entity to a department. I would move that we defer one meeting till they get here.
Is there a second? Second. It's been properly moved and second for deferral. I do not believe this is a time-sensitive issue.
And if they were to show, Mr. Chair, before the end of the meeting, then we could readdress this if you care to.
Okay, that's fine. Well, Councilman, would you rather move it to the Hill?
We'll move it to the Hill at this stage then.
All right. All right. And they did receive notification from the clerk's office, so we'll move that to the Hill and give them opportunity to show. If I may just take personal privilege, and we'll take RS 2012-513 out of order since Sheriff Hall is actually present with us today. This is sponsored by Matthews, authorizes the Department of Law to compromise and settle the claims of Jeanette Porter against the Metropolitan Government for the amount of $37,500.
Move approval.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Councilman Tiger. Council Lady Berry.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate this. A couple of questions, and maybe the sheriff, is he here? No.
He is here.
I'm not sure that this is not directed at him specifically, so that's more of a general Metro question as it relates to this particular piece of this resolution. Because of the way the resolution is structured, it sounds like the employee was terminated for raising an issue of illegality. And so my question is, if that's the case, then what kind of processes and procedures do we have in Metro to allow people to raise issues, to protect them from retaliation, and what's the process?
All right.
And again, that may not be
a question that
you have the internal auditor, who is a autonomous agency, that was set up when the charter was changed, has a whistleblower program. They have a number that you can, an employee or a citizen can call in on, and there is, I can't think of the word I'm looking for. Kept quiet. I can't think of
anonymous.
Anonymous. Thank you.
Yeah, you can be anonymous.
And it is kept anonymous, and they investigate those allegations that are made, and if necessary, forward them to offices such as the district attorney or things of that nature if they think they're warranted. So there is a provision, at least that aspect that exists, and I think most departments have the numbers up in there on the bulletin boards in offices and things of that nature. So that is one entity. Does
that include the sheriff's office? Does the sheriff's office have those phone numbers up? So this person could have taken that step and called. Right. When an individual does call that particular hotline, what is the protection from retaliation? If you choose to not be anonymous, what would be the, I mean, obviously this individual knew, you know, was prepared to give her name and had said she had raised this several times. So
I'm not sure through the internal auditor that you can be anything but anonymous. I'm not sure. He would have to answer that. But the program was set up to protect the identity of the person raising the issue.
So do we have any policies and procedures then if you raise an issue and you're a known person raising an illegal activity that you would be protected from retaliation or not?
Rich, would that be more of a civil service question?
Yeah, I don't know specifically the answer in all circumstances, but there are many provisions in different statutes and different federal and state laws that protect retaliation. So that's something that HR trains all departments about, that the law department trains departments about. We take retaliation pretty seriously. I would venture to say that it's fairly well known among the departments what you can and can't do in the face of issues that loosely could be analogized to this one.
So if this is not retaliation, then why are we settling it?
I would say that there are a set of circumstances, you know, upon which reasonable minds can differ as to what happened, and that's why you settle things. I think from the sheriff's perspective, speaking for the sheriff, he would say the facts would appear one way.
Sure.
I think Ms. Porter would say, no, that's not what happened. And it would be up for a jury in this case, since it's a discrimination retaliation case, to decide. And I think frankly, I think it's fairly, given how potentially explosive the allegation is, I would venture to say it's a fairly reasonable settlement. So I guess that's where I come out with it. And that's why I felt it was there was a mediation. I think the mediator pointed out to both sides what the strengths and weaknesses are, and the parties came to an agreement, which is really the best way to get something like this resolved.
Yeah, okay.
Darren, do you want, did I speak? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilor Berry. Councilman Tiger.
Do Metro employees clock in? Are there time cards?
It's on.
I know in some departments there are, and some departments there are not.
In this situation, these employees that were alleged to have earned overtime, were they time clock employees?
My understanding was they were not.
They were salaried employees?
I'm sorry, they're hourly employees, but there is no time clock in the Sheriff's Department. Darren, if I'm messing up here, just correct me.
Yeah, we, over the years, the Sheriff's Office has had, well, it's 15 years ago, time clocks. It's extremely difficult to manage that in a system as large as ours. The individuals in mind in this situation, just to put it in perspective, was some 3 years ago, and they were hourly employees who never brought forward their own complaint about any monies, and the total, just so you know, the total was less than $5,000. Once Ms. Porter eventually, 2.5 years later, brings that information to us, they were paid immediately. And so,
overtime?
Yes. What they were deserved once we found out that they weren't paid. And so, yes, they're hourly employees who we were changing from 8-hour shifts to 12-hour shifts, and that's really the overlap, and that's the only time that happened.
So if we paid them immediately, what why is there a lawsuit, or why did she allege that we did something wrong? What am I missing here?
Yeah, I think there are other allegations that have been made about what the practices were that that Ms. Porter brought to the attention of the plaintiff's lawyer, not to the auditor, not to the Department of Human Resources. So this wasn't the only allegation that she raised about what the practices were.
Have you reviewed her employee file?
I have not personally reviewed her employee file. No.
I'm just wondering, is this an employee that had glowing histories and remarks, or?
I'll let the sheriff answer that.
I was troubled by how much of this I'm supposed to say.
Yeah, it just gets real. It does get a little bit funky. I would agree. But generally speaking, she and her was viewed as a good employee. That doesn't mean that people have disagreements about how certain courses of action should take place. It also doesn't mean that at certain times fit is not the right, for lack of a better term, the fit of that particular person in a particular department at a particular time might not really work well. And I think this is one of the issues that came up in this matter.
Has you or the finance department reviewed the policies and procedures at all metro departments to make sure situations like this does not arise again?
I would venture to say that FLSA in particular is an area that we do get, there is training about. It's very important to comply with that. Have we done a full-scale audit to make sure every department's in compliance? I would say we have not done that. We are in the process, and I don't want to talk too much about this because of the pending litigation that's still going on, the class action. Obviously, we're in the process of reviewing all the sheriff's policies and procedures on overtime to understand exactly what happened during the time period alleged in the lawsuit. I think, and I don't want to sound like this is a commercial or not, I would venture to say that FLSA is something that it's critical that the government comply with, critical that all private employers comply with, and we need to continue to look at ways we can get better at it. That's what I would say.
So you mentioned other pending lawsuits. If we approve this, does everything associated with this go away?
I would say they're very different. The Jeanette Porter situation, which we have settled, is somewhat related to the lawsuit, but really isn't. She alleges that she was terminated because she retaliated, was in retaliation for something she said relating to a different lawsuit that is still pending. That's a class action lawsuit that claims the Sheriff's Department did not pay overtime for certain hours worked over the course of the period alleged in the lawsuit. That is still continuing, and we had a deposition in that case, in fact, today. So that is not settled by any stretch of the imagination. This just settles Ms. Porter's situation, which really is different.
Okay. And if it looks like it's $37,000 plus attorney's fees, do we know what that figure is for attorney's fees?
20,000.
I'm in the wrong profession.
I would say you're in the right profession. You do it very well. Okay.
Thank you, Councilman Tiger. Council Lady Berry.
Thank you, Chair. I'm sorry, I just wanted to follow up to one more question that the Councilman Tiger had asked. So the money that was allegedly not paid, has any money been paid to these folks for their overtime? Okay, so why do we have a class action suit then?
Oh, I'm sorry. There were two different, the claims that Ms. Porter made were for employees in a different division.
Oh, I see. So these are okay. So these are
two separate sets.
They're so okay. So thank you. That's helpful.
I think I created the confusion there, so I apologize for that. The sheriff's looking at me.
Thank you, Council Lady Berry. Councilman Glover.
This is not a question. This is merely an observation, and it certainly is not directed at you, Sheriff, but it's directed to all of Metro. If we don't have time clocks, I would think in today's electronic world, we must have some way that we are able to track time. And so, Mr. Riebling, I don't know who this falls under, but I would certainly hope that as we go into the budget process that we look at this going forward to where maybe this doesn't occur, again, not to you, Sheriff Hall, but to anywhere in Metro. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
If I might just quickly add, you're correct, Councilman, in your statement. And one of the issues that we're going to try to do to address this is we'll be coming with a 4% resolution here in the next few weeks. And one of the items in that would be a large amount of money to get a time and attendance system for Metro government. So, well said.
Thank you, Councilman Glover. Seeing no other discussion, I'd like to go ahead and call the question. All in favor? All opposed? Resolution passes. We'll go on to RS 2012-506. Sponsors Potts, Matthews, and Stein approves an amendment to an agreement between Metro government and Coca-Cola regarding a recycling promotional program called Recycle and Win by renewing and extending the agreement for a new expiration date of June 30th, 2013. It's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All opposed? Resolution passes. I do see that Mr. Bernhardt has joined us, so if we could go back to RS 2012-505, I'll read the caption again. Accepts a donation of $3,500 from the Nashville Downtown Partnership to the Metro Planning Department to assist in the cost of tax impact analysis for Nashville. It's been properly moved and seconded. Councilman Tiger?
Yes, Mr. Bernhardt, we're sorry to wake you up from your afternoon nap,
Right.
but appreciate you being here. Tell us a little bit about what the goals of this tax study are.
Okay, basically there are two parts to this study. One is looking at the difference between, it's basically undertaking an analysis of per acre tax assessments throughout the county. What they have found is that much of the tax assessment process penalizes either redevelopment in downtown, redevelopment in corridors, and rewards large single-purpose development. You have a lower tax rate on that. So part of that shows that. The other part will show, and what this donation is going for, is an analysis of the importance of downtown in terms of generating taxes to the community, and it will include a comparison of Nashville, Chattanooga, Knoxville, and Memphis on that. And so the chamber wanted, the Downtown Partnership wanted to have that, and so they contributed to that part.
Can you give an example of that first scenario where you felt like there was a discrepancy?
Well, part of this is to determine whether there is a discrepancy in Davidson County. The person that's done this has done this across the country, and what has historically been found is, for example, that if you just take single-family development, a large lot single-family development in a more pricey area of town may be paying less per acre than either a middle-income house or, in many cases, a small lot in a more depressed area. Likewise, a 30-acre Walmart will be paying less in taxes per acre than the Walgreens that might be on the out parcel. So this is to undertake that analysis.
How long will this study take?
Take about 4 months. 3 to 4 months.
And we'll get a copy of it when it's...
You'll probably have a presentation, yes.
Super, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Tiger. Seeing no other discussion, all in favor? All opposed? Resolution passes. RS 2012-507, sponsors Weiner Evans and others, approves an agreement between Metro government and the Harper Valley Utility District to purchase drinking water in the event of an emergency or special need. Second. It's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Resolution passes. RS 2012-504. Oh, is this? Yeah, I had 2 copies of that page. I apologize. RS 2012-508. Sponsors Claiborne, Potts, and Matthews, approves an amendment to a state grant for safety improvements at up to 30 signalized intersections by the Metro Public Works Department by substituting the previous agreement to increase the amount of state funding and the local match, and by extending the agreement through December 31st of 2017. It's been properly moved and seconded. Councilman Tiger.
Have all the intersection improvements been identified, or is this for future intersections?
Is there someone from Public Works that could address Councilman Tiger's question?
Billy Davis, Public Works Engineering. Charlie, we've identified up to 50 intersections that we're looking at. We just have participation from the state up to 30 as we work down the list.
And these 30 are already bona fide need?
Yes, these would be high incident intersections that we already have a history we're tracking on, yes.
Would Highway 100 at Vaughn's Gap be an example of that, where the poles are up, but have been up for months, but the lights aren't there?
I don't think that one's on the list, to be honest with you. There's a bill on first reading, if you want to know, that addresses that due to the railroad. That's a different situation.
Different situation? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Tiger. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All opposed? Resolution passes. RS 2012-509, sponsors Claiborne, Potts, and Matthews, approves a state contract for the resurfacing of 1.114 miles of Spence Lane with the state cost of $508,575 and the Metro match of $169,525. It's been properly moved and seconded. Seeing any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All opposed? Resolution passes. RS 2012-510, sponsors Claiborne, Potts, and Matthews, approves a state contract for the resurfacing of 1.855 miles of Elm Hill Pike with the state cost of $689,250 and a Metro match of $229,750. It's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All opposed? Resolution passes. RS 2012-511, sponsors Matthews, Bennett, and Lancaster, approves an annual state grant of $399,888.58 to the Metro Police Department for the continuation of an enhanced DUI enforcement initiative. It's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All opposed? Resolution passes. RS 2012-512, sponsors Banks and Matthews, approves the waiver of pension benefit overpayments made to Randy, I'm going to mispronounce this, Muir, in the amount of $860.28. It's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All opposed? Resolution passes. RS 2012-514, sponsors Matthews, authorizes the Department of Law to compromise and settle the property damage claim of Bell South Telecommunications Incorporated against the Metropolitan Government for the amount of $80,000. It's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Councilman Tiger, sorry about that.
When Metro digs, do we do the Tennessee one call and go through all that procedure?
Someone that could address that.
My name is Hal Balthrop. I'm an assistant director at Water Services. And yes, Councilman, we use the one call. We're a member of the one call system.
And in this situation, did something happen that it didn't show up?
It did show up. In fact, at the job site, we encountered not only Bell South, but also NES conduit. And unfortunately, there was a nick of the Bell South conduit that resulted in this damage.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Tiger. Councilmember Garrett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just quick, when we've been through this, at least I've seen this many times, but I just wondered, Rich, do we have one big pot that these funds come from, or does this particular pot come from a pot that's set aside for the water department? One big pie.
Liability fund.
Self-insured.
But each year in the budget, there's an amount.
Is there a budgeted amount out of their department?
It's for the entire government.
It's just for the entire government?
But they're charged a low cap fee and some other fees, which I believe is included in the calculation of that.
Well, I guess you see
their
what
portion of, because they're a revenue account. I'm
kind of getting into the point. They're a very, very large.
You don't want general tax dollars being used to support a revenue account, which is essentially
that's what we're talking about.
That's what you're talking about. Yeah.
Are we doing that?
I'm not 100% certain. I will double check before tomorrow night, but I believe that when they do the calculation for some internal charges it's called low cap, and I can't say what it stands for right now, that they're allocated a portion of costs that come back to the general fund for services that the general government provides the revenue account. Okay. And so I believe that's taken into account for, but I'll double check that.
Thank you. Hal, that's no disrespect. I just understand that y'all's department is kind of one big separate department, has a whole lot of money, and I just wondered if it's a general government type of thing. I'm not sure. A lot of us think of your department as a general service type of thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Garrett. Seeing no other discussion, all in favor? All opposed? Resolution passes. We're now on to bills on second reading. BL 2012-293, sponsors Dominique, Stanley, and others, amends the Metropolitan Code to require the Board of Fair Commissioners to issue a request for information to gauge interest from the private sector regarding the future operations of the fairgrounds property. I do have a letter from the sponsor requesting a one-meeting deferral. It's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion on the one-meeting deferral? Council Lady Moore.
Thank you, Chair, for recognizing me. I appreciate that. I just want to go on record. I am just not a supporter of this bill, and I would hope that during this deferral process that the sponsor would withdraw it. And the reason being is that we do have a master plan in process. And with this master plan, the viewing audience need to know that we're not trying to get rid of the fairgrounds. All those emails we got, it's just that this bill just put all that fear back into people, but the master plan process is still ongoing. Also, the Fair Board, if I can recall, they have the right to request for information, if I recall that. And so, without us mandating them through 3 readings to go through that. And so, if they're wanting to do this, the Fair Board has the right to request for any kind of information. So, anyway, I just wanted to say, again, I'm just not a supporter of this bill. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Moore. The sponsor of the bill did just arrive. Councilman Dominique, would you like to speak on the one-meeting deferral?
I can briefly. I have been traveling. I just literally got into town just in the nick of time, but because of that, I wanted to go ahead and defer because I didn't know if I'd make it or not. And also, the Fair Board can do this if they choose to, and I want to give them that opportunity in the morning to vote on doing it themselves rather than us being involved. I think that'd be a far better choice.
All right. Thank you, Councilman Dominic. Seeing no other discussion, all in favor of one-meeting deferral? All opposed? Bills deferred for one meeting. BL 2012-314, sponsors Banks, Matthews, and Lancaster, provides for a one-time early retirement incentive to employees of the Metropolitan Government eligible to retire as of February 28, 2013. It's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Councilman Tiger?
I've got several questions. Why $700? Where was that number arrived at?
It was obviously a lot of consideration was put into this before coming up with the details of the plan. In talking with department heads, in talking with HR staff, we came to just a general consensus that 700 was a good number to use. We wanted it to be, if we were going to accomplish the goals of the program, which were to incentivize employees who were close to retirement who might choose to retire, that a number above what was done in 2004 would be appropriate. Obviously, inflation costs have gone up since that time, and so there's not a magic to the number. I'm not going to tell you it was like there's a a plan, but in general discussions among the group that worked on this between HR and some of the larger departments, we arrived at 700 being a number that we felt comfortable with, and knowing that, again, the program will be revenue neutral, so the departments are going to have to make up whatever it cost in the incentive payment. They're going to have to make it up in savings through not hiring employees, slowing down the hiring of new employees, restructuring, not filling certain positions. They're going to come up with their own plan as to how they're going to accomplish that. And so if we were going to really take advantage of this opportunity to kind of reorganize and restructure some departments, we wanted the number to be large enough to get employees' attention, and it was felt by, again, by the group, the working group, that 700 was the right number.
Are there targeted departments for reorganization that you just alluded to?
Well, I don't say targeted. I mean, I think that it gives each department an opportunity to, depending on the number of employees and who takes it. You know, in finance, for example, we're going to have probably a few employees. We may have several in the purchasing area that are eligible, that have expressed some level of interest, don't know yet if they're going to take it. And so it might give us an opportunity to restructure internally within the purchasing department. But it's generally felt that so this gives us a unique opportunity government-wide for both big and little departments to kind of look at their business and see what they might be able to do to promote some efficiencies going forward.
So when you talk about restructuring, do you have in mind, you know, let's just take purchasing, that there might be a manager and then some middle-level management and then some individuals, but in a perfect world, if you were reinventing the department or starting from scratch, there would be less positions or more emphasis on technology to cut manpower, and this is your goal to get to that area?
I think all that's part of this process, yes, sir.
All right, so this is our fourth one in history, going back to the mid-90s, early 90s. 80s. Do we have any historical data to show, you know, a year or 2 years after a buyout that restructuring was effective, that we've cut positions, or do we just grow back to the same level that we were at?
I think that each of the buyouts are done for different reasons, so I can't, you know, one of them was a sick leave buyout, and so they're done at that time. I have not gone back and researched, you know, the reasons why each of them were done, and so I can't tell you that I don't know the exact answer to your question. I can just assure you that we're going to use this opportunity this time to try to make some structural changes so that the citizens are served, and we hopefully in the long term lower the cost of government, can get by with fewer employees.
So the structural changes are once again on certain departments?
Right. I mean, I think they have perhaps too many managers. And not enough field people, or you know, the case, I mean, that's an example of what it is, or not being able to take advantage of technology changes that might be able to keep a position vacant and buy a machine of some kind or whatever, and accomplish better service to the citizens. And so, again, it's designed to give departments, and they're going to have to come in with their own individual plans. It's not something that finance or HR are telling departments, this is what you want to do, but tell us how you're going to take this opportunity. If you've got, you know, in the larger department, you have 50, 60 people leaving. Tell us how you're going to take advantage of that to become more efficient going forward.
All right. Mr. Chair, does the HR department have any of this historical data by some of these larger departments that Mr. Riebling addresses? Have you received any? Or
I haven't received any. I
know I asked John, and we got some information, but it really didn't break it down by department.
Well, I mean, I talked to the HR director at length about this, and I mean, they were basically saying that you're kind of comparing apples to oranges because of all the other factors that have gone into department restructurings and employee position reductions. I mean, if you look at the one we did in 2004, 2007, whenever it was, 2004, there are significantly fewer Metro employees now than there were when that buyout was offered. Now, only 440 people took that buyout. But we've had, because of the budget cuts over the years, I mean, we just have a lot fewer positions than we had. So they were basically expressing concern or difficulty in trying to give accurate information?
All right, so we know tough economic times and different things account for some of those streamlining, but surely we could look at a chart, an organizational chart in 4 or 5 selected departments, going down 1, 2, 3 levels of management. And in 2004, pre-2004, we had X number of managers. After that, a year or 2 later, we had X amount fewer.
And it may be the HR working with, individual departments. If you wanted to pick a few departments, they may be able to work directly with the department and go back and get that historical data instead of it being centralized.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Tiger. Council Lady Gilmore.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just would be interested in that study too, and a more comprehensive plan on what effect it will have in the end for future persons that are retiring now versus those people that would be coming into managerial positions such as women and minorities, and what opportunities that would give them since we're doing this program and then freezing the level of management.
All right. Mr. Cooper, can we add that request to the list for HR? All right. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All opposed? Bill passes. Bill 2012-315, sponsors Matthews, amends the procurement non-discrimination provisions of the Metropolitan Code to change the frequency of benchmarking. It's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in, Council Lady Gilmore.
Yeah, I think we had discussed this once before. I think the concern was for the new persons that will be coming in, when it's a turnover, how will we be able to properly measure it with it being stretched out so long versus I think it's every year now? And what will that do? But it's still a new group will be coming in on the 2 years, and just keeping this at the forefront in terms of the issues and the measurements and the benchmarks. How do you keep that continuity? That's my question.
Mr. Riebling, would you like to take a stab at that?
Yeah, I think that the idea of, this is really this idea comes from our consultant, Griffin and Strong, I believe their name is, who did the original benchmarking for us, and the sense was that having to do it on an annual basis was didn't give you any real data, didn't give you time to digest the data, and it would be more efficient, and the whole goal, which would be to expand opportunities for minority and small business, that would be better served by having the benchmark change every other year than every year. So again, this is not something that we're we're recommending it because our consultants think it's in the best interest of the program and will allow us to carry out the goals of the non-discrimination ordinance more effectively by doing it every other year.
Thank you. I don't recall the caucus being in support of this last year. I will request a one-time deferral, and we have more discussion on it and bring it forward.
Someone from the committee will have to make that motion. Council Lady Allen.
I'm on the committee. I'd be willing to make that request for a one-meeting deferral. I also would like to point out, I think if I understood this...
Just 1 second, Council Lady. We'll have to get a second for your motion. It's been properly moved and seconded. Go ahead, Council Lady.
Okay. This actually doesn't refer to the deferral, but I'll go ahead and say if that's okay. My understanding is that the in-between years, that the money for that would or could be used for business development and recruitment. Is that for sure, or is that just a possibility?
It's my understanding that that's what the director of the office indicated would be the intended use of those funds when they weren't having to pay the consultant every year for that. They could take that money that's already in the budget and use it for that purpose, yes.
And do we need to, is our language in place to for sure make that happen, or is it just a suggestion at this point?
I mean, that was, Mike, isn't that what?
$70,000 a year, she just wanted to use it for other development activity.
Yeah, I mean, we've got it in writing from her that the $70,000 per year would be used for business development activity.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Council Lady Allen. Seeing no other discussion, there's a motion on the floor to defer one meeting deferral. All in favor? Aye. Councilman Glover, did you want to make a comment before we call?
I would just like clarification. Who exactly is making this motion for deferral?
Councilor Allen.
But what group is?
Councilor Allen made the motion.
Okay.
Thank you.
I thought it was a group. On behalf of...
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Bill passes. One meeting deferral passes. I'm sorry. Bill 2012-316. Sponsors are Allen, Potts, and Matthews. Authorizes the acquisition of easements for 7 properties located on Prime Road Circle needed for a stormwater improvement project at an acquisition cost of $7,000. It's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All opposed? Bill passes. Bill 2012-318, sponsors S. Davis, Scott Davis, and Matthews, approves a lease agreement between Metro Government and the Metro Development and Housing Agency for property located at 302 Foster Street and the Levy Place Housing Development for the Metro Schools Community Career Center program. Been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Bill passes. And the final bill, Bill 2012-319, sponsors Matthews, approves the lease agreement between Metro Government and the Metro Development and Housing Agency for property located at 1433 Joe Johnson Avenue in the J. Henry Hill Housing Development for the Metro Schools Community Center Career Center program. It's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All opposed? Bill passes, and we are adjourned. Thank you.